Hi, my name is Dsi5221 student ID 121.208062. And for the assignment, I will be presenting on what is user requirement. First of all, I would like to begin with giving an introduction of what is user requirement. By definition, user requirements are statements in natural language plus diagram of services the system provides together with its operational constraints. In other words, user requirements are an essential component in the development of any product, system, or service as it represents the needs, expectations, and the specifications of end users, stakeholders, or customers who will be interacting with the final product. And just like the name implies, these are the requirements that have been set by the users. And these requirements allow for there to be an expression on how the facility, equipment, or process should perform in terms of how the product is to be manufactured, or even the required throughput and the conditions in which the product should be made. These user requirements are important because they cover the different goals in which the users can achieve by using the product or the system. And it can commonly be documented in the form of stories or even cases, scenarios, or logs. User requirements are also essential for the designing and the developing of a system to meet the goals and solves the problems of users or even the potential problems that may occur. Take, for example, working at a pharmacy, by the end of each month, there should be a monthly log being generated showing what are the drugs being prescribed to patients. This keeps track of whether or not the quota is being met as the expectations that have been set by the stakeholders. So moving on, I will now talk about one of the process and methods to gather user requirements, which is interview. So let's talk about what is an interview or interviews. An interview is an open-ended question or questions that are asked to key stakeholders, including end users and managers, in order to collect the expectations. What does it mean to collect the expectations? Well, this is direct and personal communication, talking to these stakeholders in order to meet whatever idea they might have in mind for the system. In addition, when there are interviews being held, these allow for clarification as well as probing questions to be asked in order for a much more detailed information given. And this allows for misunderstandings to not occur in any possible or feasible future. In addition, interviews are essentially a great way for you to learn who your users are, as well as what are their expectations or what were their experiences like, or what may be needed for the system. What is the value of the system, as well as the desirable outcome of the system. So by sharing these questions with the system developer is able to come up with much more creative ways to improve or enhance their system. Some of the more basic interview questions that may be asked are, you as a user, what is your point of view when using the system? Are there any errors that could be fixed, or are there any bugs that could be pointed out and that could be mentioned to the system developer? As well as when you as a user are using the system, what are the goals that you have in mind while using it as a whole? What are something that you expect, but that expectation is not met as using the system? And lastly, what are the inputs and outputs that you have developed as a user when using the system? These are very basic questions that may be asked as user requirements to the user asked by the system developer. So once the questions have been answered in the interview, the system developer will compile it into a document and keep track of what was being asked by the users to enhance the system, to improve the system, or even recycle the old system and make a new one. So that is the importance of an interview. For surveys and questionnaires, as well as prototyping, my partner will actually explain it. So that is all from me. Thank you so much for listening.
Good day, madam. My name is Lam Sun Hao. My student ID is 12112115028. And today I'm gonna talk about two processes and method to gather user requirement. So the first one is surveys and questionnaires. To distribute survey or questionnaires to related user to get data on their preference. And after getting back the sample of survey, we can analyze responses to identify the common patterns on requirement priority, like which priority has the which requirements has the higher priority, which we have to done it first. So from this, I only have some brief process of the survey and questionnaire. I have made my own processes from this method to gather user requirement. So I will explain about it now. So the first step is to identify the objective. Make ourselves clear about what is the specific information that we're trying to gather in the survey. Then clearly define the goals and objective of the survey to avoid getting the response that out of scope. So after identify the objective, we can move on to step 2, which is design the set of questions. To design a clear and understandable set of questions, we can using mix of multiple choice questions, Likert scale, yes or no, true false questions, and as well as open-end question. Yeah. So after design a set of questions, we can move on to step 3, which is pilot testing. In this phase, we only test the survey with a small group of people to identify the issues in the questionnaires or the survey. We not yet get the real data in this phase first. Yeah. So after step 3 testing, we can move on to step 4, which is distribute the real surveys. To distribute the survey, first thing first, we actually have to identify the scope of our project. Like for example, who are the targeted user in this project? For example, like if we do a project that related to touch and go, then we will only distribute this survey that to the user that using touch and go. Then we will able to get the correct and efficient sample. Yeah. So after getting back after distribute all the survey, and we can proceed to step 5, which is analysis. After get back all the samples from the user, we can proceed to analyze quantitative data using statistical tools. Then we will get the real data from our user. Then we can check on if the significant number of respondents rate navigation low, it signals that a potential requirement for improved application or website navigation. Yeah, so this is basically for all the processes of survey and questionnaires. Yeah, so we move on to the prototyping. So for the prototyping is to create the prototypes or mock-ups of the product to visualize concept and functionalities. After create the prototypes and test the prototype, we can gather the user feedback on these visual representations to refine and enhance user requirement. Yeah. So also same as the survey and questionnaire, I have also made my own processes for this prototyping to gather user requirement. Yeah. So for the first step, prototyping, we have to also the same as survey. We also identify the objective, clearly outline the understand the goals of this prototype. For example, like what specific feature or interaction that we try to test. We try to test in this prototype. Yeah. So after clear about the objective, we can proceed to test step 2, which is create the low fidelity prototype. Low fidelity prototype is mean that a symbol diagram of an early stage of design concept. In this phase is to only develop a basic representation of the user interaction user interface. This can be done by using paper sketches or even digital framework like pencil, Figma, and also Sketch. Yeah. So after create the prototype, we can proceed to step 3, which is user testing. In this user testing, we invite user to interact with the prototype and collect their feedback on the design and its functionality to see whether it has something to improve or not. Yeah. So after user testing the prototype, we get their feedback and proceed to step 4, which is refinement. This phase is to get the user feedback from the testing, then refine the prototype and make necessary adjustment to improve the usability and address its issue. Yeah. So after refinement, we can proceed to first step 5, which is upgrade to high fidelity prototype. In this phase, we upgrade to the more detailed and interactive version of prototype for further testing and validation to the more real product, of the prototype. Yeah, so this is basically our my processes of prototyping to gather user requirement. So that's all for our user requirement. Thank you.